So the Nintendo Switch 2 launched just last month, and with it came a whole bunch of new accessories. This includes several new controllers. You may recall a couple years ago that I made a video about what controllers were the best ones to use for Smash Ultimate. That's actually one of my most viewed videos now, so thank you. With the next Smash game still nowhere to be seen, I thought it would be good to make a follow-up video talking about the new controllers that debuted with the Switch 2. I should note, these new controllers are not compatible with the Switch 1. If you try pairing any of them to a Switch 1, they just will not work at all. So if you don't have a Switch 2 just yet, you can't actually use any of these. There are 3 controllers I'll be going over, so let's see how good they are for Smash Ultimate. In my first controller video, I said that the Switch Pro controller was my favorite controller to use for Smash Ultimate. That is still true today. So you can imagine how glad I was to see that the Switch 2 Pro controller is just a Switch 1 Pro controller, but better. It has the same form factor, but with slightly thinner handles, 2 extra buttons on the back, and a headphone jack. What surprised me most was the texture. Whereas the Switch 1 Pro controller feels like typical plastic, and the buttons and sticks click and clack as you would expect from a game controller, the Switch 2 Pro controller feels like smooth butter in your hands. The sticks are almost dead silent, and the face buttons, shoulder buttons, and triggers all feel much softer when pressed down. It's something you have to try for yourself to believe. It really does feel much better overall. Now for the new features. There are 2 extra buttons on the back, GL and GR, that you can remap to other buttons, including L3 and R3. These buttons do indeed work on Smash Ultimate, so you can map them to shields, jumps, attacks, and anything else you can think of. You don't need to worry about accidentally pressing these buttons either. It takes a bit of force to actually press them. These buttons could potentially make some advanced techniques easier to perform. You'll just have to experiment with different button configurations and see what works best for you. And then there's the 3.5mm headphone jack. This just brings the Switch 2 up to speed with the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, as the latter two already have headphone jacks on their controllers. Just plug in any pair of headphones or earphones, and the effect is instant. You will have to update the controller the first time you plug in headphones, but this should only take a few seconds at most. So that's the Switch 2 Pro controller. It's everything the Switch 1 Pro controller was, with a fresh coat of paint and a few new features added that just improve the overall experience. I highly recommend getting one. Not just for Smash, but for all your future Switch 2 games. What's that? I forgot something.
C.
Oh, right. There's also a C button on the controller that activates game chat mode. This only works if you have a paid Nintendo Switch Online subscription. But at the moment, game chat is freely available to everyone until March 31st, 2026. If you have a lot of friends with their own Switch 2s, and you play together online a lot, you may find this feature useful. Otherwise, you're better off just using Discord. Up next, we have the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube controller. This is an updated wireless GameCube controller that adds a few extra buttons, just like the Switch 2 Pro controller. This was made for people who want to play GameCube classics on Nintendo Switch Online. You got your ZL button, home button, screenshot button, pairing button, and game chat button. Also, since it's wireless and uses USB-C, you don't need a separate adapter to plug it in like with the old wired controllers. Everything else is exactly the same as the wired controllers. Smash Ultimate even recognizes it as a proper GameCube controller, not a Pro controller, so that's nice. I should note though, the extra ZL button does not work in Ultimate. The game recognizes GameCube controllers without that button, so it just doesn't register. If you've been wanting a new GameCube controller, and if you don't want to deal with using a separate adapter to plug it in, I would recommend this one. However, there is one big problem. There's only one place you can buy it, the online My Nintendo store. They require you to have a paid Nintendo Switch Online membership first just to be able to buy it. On top of that, you can only purchase one controller per Nintendo account. And there's a good chance that the controller will be out of stock when you try to get one. Lastly, if you don't pay extra for faster delivery, you may have to wait over a week for it to reach your doorstep, as they're shipped out from Nintendo's headquarters in the state of Washington. So you have to jump through a few hoops before you can get your hands on it. But if you're willing to go through all that, then this controller is a fantastic option for Smash Ultimate. How can it not be? It's been there since Smash Bros. Melee. Finally, there's the Joy-Con 2 controllers. Generally speaking, they are a big upgrade from the original Joy-Cons. They're larger and more ergonomical, so they feel a lot more comfortable to hold in each hand. The magnets in each side also make it much easier to attach them to the Switch 2's main body, as opposed to the finicky rails on the Switch 1. The sticks and buttons are also bigger, including the SL and SR buttons on the sides. So even just using one sideways Joy-Con 2 feels way better than before. Unfortunately though, the dreaded stick drift from the Switch 1 is still present in the Switch 2. The Joy-Con 2s do not use Hall effect sticks. They have pretty much the same potentiometer technology as the original Joy-Cons under the hood. There have already been reports of Joy-Con 2s experiencing drift, sometimes right out of the box. So while the Joy-Con 2s are certainly better than the originals in size and ergonomics, they are still just as vulnerable to drifting as the originals. And let's not forget that buying a new pair of them will set you back $95, which will become $100 after tax. Overall, I still would not recommend the Joy-Con 2s for Smash unless they're the only option you have. The controller grip that houses both of them at once does help, even more so than the Switch 1. You can even get a separate charging grip with the two back buttons included if you can't quite afford a new Pro controller. But since stick drift is still very much a problem, I would not recommend abusing your Joy-Con's analog sticks with constant smash attacks. Oh, and there's also mouse functionality in the new Joy-Cons. That's nice and all, but Smash Ultimate can't do anything with it. Maybe the next Smash game could? So there you have it. All three new controllers for the Switch 2. Again, none of these controllers are compatible with the Switch 1, so if you don't have a Switch 2 yet, you won't be able to use any of these. But if you do have a Switch 2, I would definitely recommend at least getting the new Pro controller. It really does handle like a dream. If you have any thoughts on these new controllers, or the Switch 2 in general, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you made it all the way to the end, leave a comment with a star emoji. Thanks for watching,